just illegals. It's criminals. It's drugs. It's the new phenomena that's been age-old, been going on for thousands of years, but it's never been worse than now because of the internet. Human trafficking, where they grab women, put tape over their mouth, come through our border, and sell them. And they go both ways in both directions. We better get smart. Human trafficking is a big business. It's a big deal. Dealing in children is a big deal. Children are probably the most harmed.
We believe the monsters who murder children should be put to death. We seem to have quite a good agreement on that. These people murder children, and they do it as slowly and viciously as possible. We will not allow these animals to terrorize our communities, and my administration will not rest until every member of MS-13 is brought to justice. We've done a great job with MS-13, but now we're stepping it up even to a higher level. This has never happened before. There's never been any move like this before. Much of it's already taken place, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it.
I was an information technology specialist, MLS code 25 Bravo in the U.S. Army, and for a few years I was stationed in the region beneath Pacific Command. During this time, my primary job was monitoring network traffic on what's known as SIPRNet, or the network for the DoD that is responsible for transmitting any level of classified information. So classified, secret, top secret, that was compartmentalized information. And that was the network where I, either early 2019 or late 2018, started to see a massive spike in abnormal communications between authorized users within Pacific Command to authorized users with IP addresses that I could recognize 100% of the time as belonging to Pentagon employees, either uniformed contractors, civilian employees, intelligence officials, something of that nature. And a lot of these communications were related to picking up underage prostitutes. In particular around certain parts of Tokyo, as well as the Philippines and certain regions in South Korea. It's never once on an unclassified network. Emails, communications, live chats regarding trading child pornography, engaging in prostitution, and generally speaking, the receiving end was an IP that was attached to the Pentagon in some way, shape, or form. I forwarded this information up to my supervisor and got me in touch with CID, which is the Army's sort of federal law enforcement. They investigate these big crimes like felonies. They don't waste their time on DUIs. Handed over some more documentation regarding what I found and how specifically this stuff was incriminating, and I still have yet to receive any update.
The Defense Department releasing brand new details into an investigation involving child pornography and dozens of its workers and contractors, some with top-level security clearance. Not only are these very serious accusations, but investigators say some of the people involved were handling the nation's most sensitive secrets, potentially making this a matter of national security. Chief Fox Report correspondent Jonathan Hunt with the news. Appalling story, Jonathan. Do we know more about these people and their security clearances?
Well, we don't know their exact job titles, John, but what we do know is that they did appear to have been working, some of them at high levels, across a range of government agencies. Take a look at this, for instance, the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the very secretive Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Others also worked on actual military installations, including Edwards Air Force Base in California and also the California-based Naval Air Warfare Center. So they had access to military secrets in some cases and military hardware, John.
Are all these suspects under arrest?
They're not all under arrest. We got 94 pages of investigative material from the Defense Department today, including dozens of specific individuals. They have not all been arrested, though. Some have been tried, some have been sentenced, but some have, the cases simply fell apart because of lack of evidence. And legal experts tell us it is always very difficult to prosecute child porn cases, not least because it's difficult to prove who exactly was on any given computer. Listen.
Who has the password? Who has the identification to get into that? Was it you who opened the computer and I went on it? Those are very difficult aspects in prosecuting. Then there's finding the victims. Are they abused victims? Are they underage? Did they appear overage? You know, there's a lot of difficulties built right into child pornography cases.
But Josh Hanshaft also told me it is imperative that the government find a way to prosecute in these cases because they are so important and so disturbing.
And this isn't just about workers committing crime.
No, it's not. The big fear here is that there is a possibility that these people open themselves to blackmail by a foreign power that wants to get information about our military secrets, or even terrorists. So the Defense Department is very concerned. It says they are taking all of these cases very seriously indeed, John.
I'll bet they are. Jonathan Hunt.
This is made up of about 36 men from around the world. Lost Boy was a place where individuals could share pictures and videos depicting child pornography. Let me be clear. We are not talking about innocuous photographs or quote-unquote artistic photographs of naked children on the beach. I am referring to serious graphic images of children that are being sexually exploited. Many of these children were in the age range of 7 to 12 years old, and these pictures usually depicted children with their genitals graphically displayed or engaging in explicit sexual activity with other children or even adult men. As a parent, it is just too difficult to imagine the horrific forms of abuse that these children had to go under, and quite frankly, it's difficult to imagine how the lives of these children will ever be the same. One of certainly the most disturbing aspects of this bulletin board was a forum called the Handbook Project. Here, certain members had access to this project, if you will, and would contribute to what would be commonly known as a grooming handbook.
Keeping them honest tonight, potentially hundreds of military employees and contractors who may have bought child pornography online but haven't been prosecuted or even in some cases investigated. That's right, you heard me, child pornography. As many as 1,700 names, according to a U.S. Senator, on a list of 5,200 from an internet sting operation overlooked the first time around 4 years ago. Only now are they supposedly getting a second look, and only after pressure from investigative reporters and the U.S. Senator you're about to hear from, Republican Charles Grassley. The Pentagon porn story began in 2006. An Immigration and Customs Enforcement child pornography sting operation called Project Flicker produced payment records of about 5,200 people, many of whom provided Army or fleet zip codes or military email addresses. Subsequently, the Pentagon's investigative branch, DCIS, began going through the ICE list to identify who actually was a DoD employee or a contractor. The investigation, however, only ran for 8 months and only cross-checked some 3,500 names for Pentagon ties, according to a senator. According to DCIS documents revealed in a Freedom of Information Act request, out of that 3,500, investigators uncovered 264 employees or contractors, including staffers for the Secretary of Defense and contractors at the NSA. 9 people had top security clearances, but only about 20% of those 264 people were completely investigated. Fewer still were prosecuted, and after about 8 months, the entire probe was halted. It left about 1,700 names totally unchecked, 1,700 alleged kiddie porn customers, an unknown number of whom may still work in some capacity for the Defense Department. Late last summer, after investigations by the Boston Globe and Yahoo News revealed the figures, a Pentagon spokesman promised to reopen the investigation, conceding that DCIS had stopped due to lack of resources. DCIS says it is now revisiting all 5,200 names, telling Senator Grassley's staff they've now identified 302 employees or staffers. The Pentagon's IG telling us, and I quote, "Any suggestion that the DoD Office of Inspector General or its criminal investigative arm, the DCIS, is not taking Operation Flicker and the issue of child pornography seriously is in error." But Senator Grassley says he is still not getting the cooperation he needs from this Pentagon. I spoke to him earlier. Senator Grassley, you were told that 5,200 Defense Department employees had allegedly purchased child porn, and yet you're saying only 3,500 of those names were cross-checked by a defense investigator to see if they were really DoD personnel. That's mind-boggling. Why weren't all of them cross-checked?
Well, we don't have an answer to that question, but it's quite obvious that the other 1,700 should have been cross-checked, and that's one of the answers to my questions that I want answered, and the implication of our questions is they ought to be cross-checked. We ought to find out, because we're talking about not just general pornography here. We're talking about child pornography, and child pornography, taking that down is a crime. And also, there's an added factor here, considering the fact that there's a lot of secured information, national security information that the world shouldn't know, that a lot of times foreign operatives will use this sort of criminal activity to blackmail to get information. So there's a lot of things here that are involved because it's a Defense Department issue as opposed to any other department of government.
Right. I mean, sir, if your numbers are correct, 1,700 people out there who allegedly purchased child porn, we don't know if they were ever cross-checked or investigated, right?
That's true, and there's been some other names in the hundreds where there's the names have actually been given out that we don't know what's going to be done about them. Now, there's some reason to believe that it's a criminal act. It's been so far since it's happened that they could be stale. Maybe you can't have criminal prosecution, but we would be looking at administrative action to be taken against these people. And I want to know who they are and what administrative action's being taken.
Yeah, because what's even more startling is that of the 302 people confirmed as DOD personnel or contractors, only 70 of them were actually investigated. How is it possible that all of them weren't investigated?
Well, here's, I think, the thing that overrides everything you just asked, and that is we ask criminal investigators in the Division of Defense that does that, the extent to which supervisors of these people knew that this was going, and the criminal investigators couldn't even answer that question for us when we had a briefing from them.
So wait a minute, so you're saying we don't even know if the supervisors of these people were told that their employees may have downloaded child porn?
That's the question that my staff asked of the criminal investigators, and they could not answer the question whether or not supervisors had been informed of this. And if supervisors don't know about it, it's a bad environment that things like this can happen in the first place, and worse, that it's a criminal act when things are downloaded.
Until you started raising this issue, this investigation was closed by the Defense Department. They only investigated for about 8 months. Do you think the Pentagon just didn't take this seriously?
Well, it's quite obvious that they didn't take it seriously, because it wasn't only that I was asking the questions. It wasn't until it started getting questions from people like you who are journalists that this got their attention, and we got any consideration and reopening of this in the first place.
Well, one of your staffers told us that getting information from the Defense Department on this has been like pulling teeth. Is that how you describe it?
Yeah. Oh, I've been involved in oversight of the Defense Department for almost all the years I've been in the United States Senate, and it's very difficult to get answers from a lot of bureaucracies, but it's quite more difficult in the Defense Department.
Senator Grassley, I appreciate your time. We'll continue to follow this. Thank you.
Even the D.C. police say has no basis in fact.
Yes, it's a pack of lies. I think there has to be some way of breaking these things up. It's impossible that this news can go from one person to the next in a grand conspiracy theory, and there's no reporting, no ability to do anything.
You think you're hot shit, don't you?
Look at this is evidence. There's a child with her hands taped down, and you say there's a very simple explanation for that.
Yeah, I'm very glad that you've had us on today. It's an incredible thing. We've invited your cameras into the restaurant because people have all of these ideas, and people use social media. This is a picture of my godchild in a completely innocent place, very happily playing with her sister. Her sister taped her hands. Her parents are there. I put this on my Instagram with their approval. Right there, it sits there on the internet for a year and a half, and people start building these lies and falsities about innocent people and then spreading this image over the internet.
When people talk about fake news, a lot of folks just roll their eyes like, whatever, people will figure it out. The truth is they don't always figure it out. And someone could have been killed inside of your restaurant for no good reason other than people like Alex Jones fanned a conspiracy theory that even the D.C. police say has no basis in fact.
Yes, it's a pack of lies.
This is monitored in digital security sweeps. So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible. This bill attempts to essentially say, look, we're not doing enough to stop it from coming in, but we're also not doing enough in the Department of Defense to go after those individuals who are.
Child pornography is more prevalent than ever online. That's according to the FBI. And as criminals get more tech savvy, it's tougher to find them.
This noon, the FBI announced that agents arrested this man, a 19-year-old from Troutdale. He's accused of convincing children to send him sexually explicit pictures. KGW's Lindsay Nadrich sat down with a detective today who's working to fight online sexual exploitation like this.
The number of child porn images online is horrific.
Is it more prevalent than it ever has been?
Oh, yes.
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received 18.4 million reports of images of child sex abuse last year, and tech companies reported 45 million explicit images of children. That's more than ever before. And detectives say it's in part because it's easier than ever to access.
It's a touch away. It's a convenience that it's not like when you buy drugs, you have to physically go out and you have to find somebody usually to buy the drug from. Here, it's a click away.
Beaverton detective Chad Opitz is a member of the FBI's Child Exploitation Task Force. He showed me a little of what he does to track down predators.
So this is somebody I was talking to earlier, and he knows that I'm underage, and he wants a picture.
Detective Opitz is posing as an underage boy or girl on social media sites. And it doesn't take long for him to find someone who's interested.
So again, it's a hey, male 17, see, and then right away. So that's a perfect example. It took 3 messages from him, 2 replies from me. I'd say I'm a 14-year-old. And he was already asking for nudes.
As you saw, within seconds, he was asked for nude photos. But it's not just happening on the dark corners of the web. It's happening on mainstream websites like Facebook, which, according to the FBI, is the lead reporter of explicit images of children.
It's almost mind-boggling because the answer is we see it everywhere. You name an app that has a lot of users, and there's the potential for abuse to be happening on it.
We just sadly get countless cyber tips and actual sexual abuse cases where exploitation cases where either the child has agreed to meet up and has met with this person, or they will send photos.
On Friday, the FBI arrested a 19-year-old Troutdale man named Anthony Lazowski on child exploitation charges. The FBI says Lazowski used social media to get kids to send him sexually explicit videos and images of themselves. He's also accused of extorting at least one girl who said he threatened to share the images of her if she didn't travel to meet him for sex. There are 2 known victims, but the FBI says there could be more.
Our group, this task force, exists because awful things happen to kids. And if you dwell on that's super depressing. And so, again, caring about the kids and putting that work in and really go after the offenders, and I think that's why, again, speaking for everyone that I think works these types of cases, that's important to us.
And it's important to talk to your kids about what to do if they're asked for photos or videos of themselves online. The FBI created a guide just for kids. We've posted a link to that on KGW.com. I'm Lindsay Nadrich, KGW News.
Worth parents checking that link out.
And we thank the detectives for the work that they do.
Absolutely.
if you look up my name now in any platform,
yeah,
it's disgusting what appears. If you look up the name of the restaurant, it's pretty bad too. YouTube and Instagram and everything is filled with just lies.
Remember this phrase from the 1980s, satanic panic? It was sort of shorthand for a slew of false accusations that children were involved in satanic rituals.
Yeah, well, now the conspiracy is making a comeback online, and this is thanks to groups like QAnon. You know that name. NBC News senior reporter Brandy Zadrozny covers extremism and the internet for us and joins us now. So, Brandy, in your story, you highlight the story of